the stress that happens leading up to a D&D session, I think is not talked about enough, and I think it's something that a lot of people experience. Hi, my name is Brookelin, and I'm a mental health counselor. I'm also a player in the Knocked Prone podcast, and I'm a wife to Cade, who really is the mastermind behind the Knocked Prone brand. When you know your game is coming up, there are so many possible things to worry about. At least from my perspective, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, a lot of things that you have to think about and plan. That can lead to a lot of anticipatory anxiety. Anticipatory anxiety is a term that is used for when you are stressing about something that might be stressful. So when we're experiencing a lot of fear or stress in the moment, like if you're giving a presentation, that's because you're afraid of what might happen in that very instant. But anticipatory anxiety is when we're like, oh man, I might get to session and things might go poorly, or I don't know how my friends are gonna receive me today, or I feel like there's a little bit of conflict going on. I don't know how to handle it. And did we level up? And will I remember my character sheet? And I'm pretty sure my dice are at their house, but I don't actually know. It could be all kinds of things. You're stressing about the possibility of stressing, which no, that's not very logical, and that's basically the definition of struggling with your mental health. When it doesn't make sense, that's a sign. Now, before I get started into this video, I do want to just have a little disclaimer that when I talk about anxiety in this sense, I'm not referring to the disorder, the mental illness that is anxiety. I'm using it as a term that is an emotion in the dictionary. The reason why I say this is because the internet is not where you should go for more hefty mental health advice, but I do think there's a lot of tips and tricks that I want to be made accessible to people. So in this context, when I use the word anxiety, you can also replace that with the word stress or fear, just to kind of keep it more broad, and I'll try to be using those words as well. Now, thinking about pre-session anxiety have made me think of 4 different things that you can do to hopefully help that. We're just gonna jump right in. Number 1, I want to talk about calming strategies. Very simple techniques that you could pull out at any time that sort of, I like to call them a band-aid solution for when we're experiencing a lot of stress. It's not necessarily going to resolve the issue itself, but can we get us to a calmer state? Because to me, I think that calming techniques can put us in a headspace where we're more capable of handling whatever issues that we're dealing with. If you notice your mind racing and you're thinking about one thing after the other, and you just can't even shut off your brain for a second, I would recommend 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is very popular, you may have heard of this before. But the idea is that you move through the 5 senses and take a moment to ground yourself to your environment. So you're gonna start with finding 5 things you can see. And I know that seems silly because usually we can see like, I don't know, 100 plus things all at once, but you're going to name them in your head, or bonus points if it's out loud. Do it with me right now. Think of 5 things that you can see around you. I can see my computer speaker, my desk, my light ring, my little twinkle lights, and my phone with my notes app. Next, you're going to identify 4 things that you can feel, and while you're at it, you might as well feel them. I can feel the pendant on my necklace. I can feel the skin on my legs. I can feel the wall that's right next to me. And I can feel my light stand. Great, now you're going to see if you can find 3 things that you can hear. I love this one because it gives me a moment to really quiet myself, just to see what I can hear around me. Sometimes it takes me by surprise. I can hear my AC running. I can hear my dog barking in the other room. And I can hear my computer whirring. Okay, awesome. Now we're gonna go to 2. So you're gonna find 2 things you can smell. This is another really hard one, I have to think about it. I recently painted this Knocked Prone sign back here. I can smell that. I can still smell the paint. It's probably still drying, it's not even finished. And I feel like I can smell the own smell of my house. I feel like I kind of know what my house smells like. And then lastly, one thing that you can taste. Of course, if you have a snack or a drink next to you, you could have some of that and notice the taste of that. But otherwise, it's pretty much, what's the status of my mouth right now? What does it taste like? It's an interesting exercise. So even though this is so simple, 5 things is not that much. You can do this relatively quickly. It really does slow you down for a moment. And honestly, it takes me a little bit to think of, wait, it's 5 things to see or 5 things to feel. And to be honest, the order doesn't matter too much. It's just like 5 things to taste might be hard depending on your surroundings. So it's okay if you don't do them in the totally right order, but hopefully it's enough to slow you down, calm you down for a little bit. And that might offer you a little soft restart on your brain, enough that you realize, I forgot about the D&D session for just like 1 minute and I was thinking about something else. And I call that a win. Okay, next is the coping strategy that I probably get the most flack for from my students when we talk about it. Breathing. Breathing is the next calming strategy I want to talk about. I like this one because you can do it no matter the situation that you're in. There's never a bad time to use a breathing technique, even if you're surrounded by a bunch of people. It's something that you can do and it doesn't have to be noticeable. There are tons of different styles of breathing. I highly recommend you look it up and try some things out because I have large preferences on which breathing techniques I like. But one that I reach for often is just going to be square breathing. Very, very simple, very popular. It's the idea that you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold that for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 4 seconds. And then hold it for 4 seconds. And just do that over and over again. Even just 30 seconds, 60 seconds of square breathing can, again, sort of offer you that calming, soft reset that might allow you to move forward feeling a little more capable of whatever you have coming up. My last calming strategy is anything that involves movement. But for me, I love for this to be just walking or stretching. If I'm really stressing out, chances are I'm like sitting down, probably scrolling on my phone, and getting up and moving your body can be a really good way to help your brain and body regulate itself. Your body is very capable of that. So if you find that you end up sort of paralyzed and just sitting still, see if you can set a small goal to walk from wherever you are to the fridge, or to stand up and stretch a little bit, or even if you're sitting in a chair. I love to Google like chair yoga. It's one of my favorite office pastimes when I need a break at work. And just be able to stretch a little bit, stretch out your body. And the good news is that your body will be going to work for you. And that's not even like a mental thing that you have to do, just a physical thing. Next, we're taking a little baby step and we're moving into mindfulness. Now, the way that mindfulness feels like a baby step for me away from calming strategies is that this is something that in the long term could actually decrease your stress. And it's something that could be very habitual, something you do all the time, but maybe with a little bit more purpose in a moment like this where you know you're experiencing stress. I really could do a whole video on mindfulness. There's already some great videos out there on the internet as well, so I recommend doing a little bit of research on your own, but let me just give you a basic exercise of what mindfulness would look like. You'll start with sitting back and thinking, how am I feeling emotionally? Can you describe how you're feeling? What emotions are going through your head? And my biggest hope is that you're not there to give yourself a hard time about it. I like to imagine a little man with a clipboard in my brain saying, what emotions is Brookelin experiencing right now? And this little man is not judging me. He is just doing his job to write down the emotions that are in my brain in any given moment. This will also be a good time to consider, what am I thinking about? What am I actually worried about? What are the scenarios that I'm concerned may come up in session? Or a way that I may be unprepared. The fancy word for this is going to be metacognition. You're thinking about thinking. But D&D players know about meta. They know metagame, right? So you can do this. You got this part. Now that you're thinking of your emotions and your thoughts, also tune into how you're feeling physically. Are there any physical symptoms that come with the anxiousness that you're feeling? Some people might feel it in their chest. It could affect your breathing. Maybe you feel it in your stomach and you might be feeling sick. These kinds of symptoms of fear are kind of difficult because they're not things that you can forcefully stop. If you realize that you're bouncing your leg because you're stressed, you could make yourself stop, at least for a little while, right? Well, if you're feeling sick to your stomach, there's nothing you can do to be like, knock it off, stress, knock it off, anxiety. And I really wanted to point that out, just to be able to say, I see you. All of these thoughts and emotions and physical feelings might not really be in your control just to shut off at any given moment. And luckily with mindfulness, that's not the goal. So once you're able to get your little checklist of all those things that are happening, all you have to do there is wait. And keep noticing. And keep thinking about that list without judging yourself. And as a matter of fact, at this point, I wouldn't even be focused on letting go of anything. I would be focused on holding on to them for a second. Taking a snapshot of really where you are in that moment. Time's gonna pass. Even just 15 seconds might feel really long to just sit there and acknowledge how you're feeling. but you're doing it. That is mindfulness. And my next curious question is 30 seconds from then, are you feeling the same? Is it shifting? Is anything different? What's different? Is it getting better? Are you finding any relief? You can sit there and ask yourself those questions, and if you realize it's getting worse or it's the same, keep holding on. Keep noticing. Keep waiting. One of the coolest things about anxiousness as a human emotion is that it never stays at a 10 forever. It doesn't even stay at a 5 forever. It's always something that's going to fluctuate up and down. So as soon as you catch yourself going back down and realizing, I don't feel as stressed right now, mark that as a win, and your mindfulness worked. And give yourself a pat on the back for being so mindful. So again, remember that this is a long-term strategy. You could do this literally all the time, multiple times a day for the rest of your life, and it would become more and more natural, and it will get to a point where just existing is you participating in mindfulness. And that is a fantastic feeling that will fade if you don't practice it. That's my long-term goal for you, and it's gonna make your D&D games better. All right, I got 2 more tips for your pre-session anxiety. And the next one is the opposite of procrastination. It's being prepared. A lot of the stress you might be experiencing could have to do with the fact that you haven't leveled up your character, or you haven't looked at the notes from last session at all and you have no idea what happened, or the DM asked you a question about what's going to happen in this next session and you haven't texted him back. It could be all kinds of things, but the more stress you're experiencing, the more difficult it can be to actually just get those things done. So if you notice your stress creeping up from session, after you've done your calming strategy, after you've had some mindfulness, get up, get it done. Just do it. Get it over with. Because as I mentioned, so much of stress and anxiety are things that feel pretty out of your control. Being prepared and not procrastinating some of the tasks that you might need to do is something that is in your control. So take control of your life. Do it. Just do the thing. And I am very hypocritical because I struggle with this a lot. But that also means that I can confirm that you will feel better if you just do it. Before we get on to the final tip, let me review. We've talked about calming strategies. We've talked about mindfulness. We've talked about being prepared and not procrastinating. And my last tip for you is communicating with your DM. Now, this is under the assumption that you have a good DM who will help you with things like this and is very friendly and considerate. If not, it is in your control to leave that D&D game. But there's a lot of things you may not be able to change and control about your experience in D&D without the help of your dungeon master. So if there is something specific stressing you out, consider communicating it with them. If it's something they can help with and there could be a change made to the game, then have that conversation, see if it's a possibility. Even if it's something that your DM can't change, you may just consider talking to them to say, hey, I don't really need any solutions, but I do really want to vent about this because this is stressing me out. I would also like to remind you that it's almost never completely up to your DM to make your Dungeons & Dragons experience better. It's always going to be a collaborative effort. You and your DM and all the other players are working together to have a fun time and to create a storyline. So if you do have suggestions for your DM or something that you're requesting from them, also consider what you can do to make that experience the best possible for you and everybody else at the table. All right, thanks for sticking around. If I could just add one more thing, it would be if you feel like you're struggling with anxiousness to the point where it's disrupting your life and stopping you from doing things that you want to do, I would also highly recommend that you pursue some kind of professional help. Therapy can do wonders, medication can do wonders, so talk to your doctor, talk to different mental health professionals to be able to get the help that you need. It's very possible that random videos on the internet are not going to be enough. And nothing that I just said is personalized to you. So as with anything on the internet, you need to take it all with a grain of salt. All right, thanks y'all. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but also listen to the Knock Prone podcast. You won't regret it.